Hello everyone, welcome back to the 5 Minute Tech channel. Hope you all are doing great. Today we will be talking about micro frontends with web component. Micro frontend is like a microservice for the UI applications. In this part we will be basically talking about the introduction to micro frontends, what they are and how we can use them, and what are the basic principles which are involved in a micro frontend implementation. So as you see, multiple applications can be hosted in different technologies in the same product, where in each of these client-side applications could be of different technology stack as per the need, and they could be combined together to be rendered on the base application through a technology like web component. So how has our software architecture evolved? So this is pretty much well-known fact that we had a monolith to start with, wherein everything was developed as a single application product with all the layers built in as a single system. Similarly, we moved ahead and we had some structure like a front end and back end, wherein as single page applications came into picture, wherein we had different technology enabled client-side applications which were done, and along with that the supporting APIs were developed by another set of individuals or teams, and they provided the APIs and we consumed that in our single page application or any client-side application. It moved on to the microservices. The client side remained the same, wherein a single team was handling the complete UI as one particular set of implementation, as well, and it was through a API gateway that you would get an API request and response going through, and there will be multiple module teams which will support different APIs. Now over the period of time, it has become important that even the client side or the UI also is divided just like a microservice is. So the entire product probably needs to be divided into certain sections that different teams can handle and be working on them independently. So similarly, we have something called as front end, micro front ends with microservices, wherein we have a single base app which has different sections, different areas of the application or different application itself in a base application, like a product section, payment section, user section. It could be a user application, payment application, or product application. It is again same way rendered. The API request goes through, or the server side request goes through our API gateway, and same way we will have the API team or API product being handled by separate teams, and the APIs being rendered. They will still have the same database structure. They will again have individual, just like microservice, they will have the same structure at the back end. So this is the evolution of our application structure from a monolith to the current most advanced or most used micro frontends with microservices. So to understand micro frontend architecture, it's an approach to develop a web application as a composition of small front-end applications. Instead of writing one single large application with all the modules in place, what we do is the application is broken down into small modules or small applications, and they are then plugged into the base application. Now, all these applications are self-contained and they can be developed and deployed independently. So just to understand why we are talking about micro frontends and how does it fit into probably in the structure in which you think about. So consider we have a single big application which is through a URL or a domain. You are rendering it to the client. There could be multiple applications you would like to have on the single screen, like what I have depicted here, app 1, app 2, maybe app 3, and other applications which could themselves be rendered independently and handled independently by different teams. Similar example will be, you have a single application, you have multiple application URLs, maybe through a hamburger or through a application tab, wherein different applications could be rendered. So these are some of the practical scenarios in which you would need or probably would want to have a micro frontend. So micro frontend, when you implement, you have to follow certain design principles, just like any other architectural design. in which you have to follow certain constructs. Such example for the design principles for the micro frontends is autonomous features. So features should be independent, it should be autonomous, although it may require communication with different features, but it could stand on its own when provided the data. The team ownership, each of the teams which own the features or the applications within the base application, that should be well defined. Technology agnostic, it is independent of what technology stack you use. You could use Angular, Vue, Ember, or any other technology. User experience should be considered, because you have to have a common look and feel. Although you have different applications, you should have a common look and feel. Value driven, it should define a particular customer value and output. Microservice driven, this is the most important, wherein you have individual services and you're trying to render the UI for them. So as I mentioned, autonomous features, I have depicted it here, how it relates to the micro frontends. So you have app 1, it could be have a built version of 1.0, it will have a code repository 1, then similarly app 2, app 3 will have different versions associated with it and different code repos through which you can pull it and build it and deploy it, and all these could come together in a single base application. So that corresponds to the autonomous features. They could have communications between each other that could be helping them to render the data. Team ownership, different teams, for example, if you have a product team or a payments team or a billing team, they can have their own system in place. As they develop the API, there could be corresponding teams which can develop the UI, and that could be rendered to the deployed independently to the base application. Talking about technology agnostic, different applications could be of different technical stack. One could be React, other could be Angular, Vue.js, or any technology stack which could help you develop the application faster, cleaner, and more efficient to the customer. User experience, as I mentioned, user experience is the paramount importance, wherein you should have the custom you should have the exact same look and feel across all your applications. So there is a certain set of some construct like a base application which could derive all the base classes and all the base styles that should be implemented across your application. Next is value driven. If you are building an application module, it is definitely serving a purpose that should be well defined, and it should be driven through a technology of choice which is most relevant, rather than just going for some fancy technology. So that's about being value driven. And microservices, so each of these applications will correspond to their own API layer, and they will have their independence in terms of how they treat the data and how they render the data to the UI. So here if you see, each of these applications are corresponding to their APIs and their own databases. So how do you implement the micro frontend technique or design, as you can say? So micro frontends can be implemented in different ways. There are two main categories of ways in which you can do it: through a shared runtime, wherein they are running on the same runtime, or through a separate runtime. Separate runtimes technology which are involved is micro apps, building small applications and putting it into your main base application, and the other is iframe, wherein you embed your application in a specific iframe. Similarly, in shared runtime, you have different techs. We have the web component, which we'll be talking in detail in the next video actually, and the framework based components. There are different types of frameworks which you can use to put your applications together in different technology stack and render into the base application. And the last one but not the least is a transclusion way of including our different applications into the base application. So as I mentioned, we will be concentrating on web component. We'll be creating web component applications, web component based applications, and we will be implementing the micro frontend architecture using the web components. So watch out for the next video. Coming up next is building apps as web component, and we'll integrate it together and we'll build it as a full-fledged micro frontend application. Thanks for watching the video. If you like the video, please press like and subscribe to the 5-Minute Tech channel. Have a nice day.